This is Jonathan Head in Bangkok.
People may remember last year there was extraordinary exposure of the commercial surrogate industry, women in Thailand willing to have babies for money for other people, when first a little boy who'd been fathered, or been carried by a Thai woman for an Australian couple, was, according to his mother, abandoned because he had Down syndrome. His case first drew the Thai authorities' attention to the extent of surrogacy here. Then they found 12 babies in an apartment last August who'd all been fathered by the same Japanese man. They think he'd fathered more than 16 in total. In effect, it was a baby factory, and that's spurred them to bring this law in. And under this law, Thailand can no longer be used by foreigners who want to have babies through surrogates. They cannot come here. Thai people can look for what they call non-commercial surrogacy if they can't have their own children, but foreigners can't. It's been a massive business here that's grown through the fertility clinics in recent years.
That's the BBC's Jonathan Head. Let's speak to Gaurav Vankade, who is the founder and CEO of Bangkok Surrogacy. Gaurav, what do you think of this ban?
Yeah, hi, good morning. Look, I think certainly, the ban is going to affect a lot of people who were planning or were actually in the process of undertaking surrogacy in Bangkok. That was probably one of the few destinations available where they had, world-class medical facilities available and pretty much easy access to surrogates. And the entire setup and the industry itself, being Thailand, being a medical tourism destination, was very attractive as such. And even the cost-wise, it was very, very well placed, compared to even India or US for that matter. But so certainly it's going to have an effect.
But the authorities there don't want Thailand to become a baby factory. Is that how you would have described the situation with the boom in the surrogacy? Is it a baby factory?
Well, certainly this last case where, 16 so-called babies were to be fathered by one particular person. I mean, if we had laws in place which actually were, they were to be followed and, proper checks and balances were made, possibly then, this wouldn't have happened. But obviously when an industry actually grows, I mean, it certainly did bloom, really. I mean, if you like, it was an explosion. I mean, to be honest with you, especially after India closed down in 2012. And so I think for lack of actual robust laws in place, things were, it did go astray to a certain extent. But generally, I would say 99% of the cases, they were all done with the right intention and people basically benefited. I mean, everyone was a winner in that case. I mean, this is certainly a one-off and certainly that I don't encourage. And I think I certainly feel, the doctor was at fault before, without doing proper checks, did 16 babies for one single father.
Yeah, interesting that you talk of surrogacy as an industry. How did that industry take off so big or so fruitfully in Bangkok, in Thailand in general? Why was it so successful?
Well, I think, the very fact that Bangkok actually has a name for itself, as a medical tourism destination, and it's a very easy sell for that matter. And also the very fact that it's a very welcoming society, if you like, being a Buddhist society, the gift of life is sort of a very, well intricated part of the society. So they are a very, in a way, they as a society, they're actually very welcoming for this idea of giving birth.
But you haven't mentioned the money. You haven't mentioned the money. It's an industry. It's a commercial industry, essentially, isn't it? We've heard reports that people are paid up to 10 times their normal annual salary for a surrogacy.
It is an industry for sure, definitely. But I think, if you look at countries like even the United States, for example, I mean, it's been practiced for the last 20 odd years with proper laws over there. It is an industry. Certainly it is. And I don't deny that. And then people do get, as you correctly said, compensated well for what they're doing. And, at the end of the day, you've got to look at the fact that everyone's a winner here, right from the time, right from the parents were commissioning the surrogacy to the IVF clinics, to the hospitals that make money out of deliveries, hotels, airlines, the entire chain as such. It is an industry. We've got to accept that, and we've got to manage it properly.
What will happen now that there's a ban? Will the industry be driven underground, do you think?
Certainly, yes. There will be one part of that will be driven underground, but the majority of that, probably I would say about 95% of that, which was actually coming from possibly, if you like Caucasian origins. I mean, would it be Australians, Europeans, Americans, for that matter? They would have to look at alternate destinations that are away from Southeast Asia, and certainly countries like Nepal are certainly on the horizon. And we are also planning to open a branch in Nepal very soon. So it's Nepal, and as has had happened with India in 2012 after they banned commercial surrogacy for singles and for people who weren't married for more than 2 years. Thailand sprung up, and similarly, I would say Cambodia is probably on the horizon to a certain extent. Nepal is certainly coming up, and there would be countries like Cyprus also has got surrogacy laws, so people would find alternatives.
Thanks very much. Really appreciate you talking to us. That's Gaurav Vankade there, who's the founder and CEO of Bangkok Surrogacy.